There are a few things in RuneScape more universally hated by the player base than bots. They're often blamed for inflicting serious economic damage to the game and devaluing achievements that many players have spent a long time working towards and hold very closely to their heart. It's safe to say that this hatred is very much justified. So with this in mind, equal, if not worse damage is being done to the game as Jagex continues to shift the game's skilling experience further and further towards being completely AFKable, while the player base practically begs for even more AFKing in the game. This is why AFK skilling is even worse for the health of the game than botting. Let's go. Alright, so before we get started, I'm going to be completely transparent so no one gets the wrong message about what I'm going to say in this video. In no way do I condone or encourage the uses of bots or other macros by players, and anyone that does decide to use these deserves to be permanently banned with no strikes given to their account. Now that we've got that formality out of the way, in this video we'll be covering what botting and AFKing are, why skilling is doing more harm to the game than bots, and what could be done to fix these issues down the track. So starting off, let's look at what AFK training is. I'd regard AFK training as any activity where you can progress your account where you do not need to interact with the game for more than 2 minutes. Obviously that's a pretty vague definition because AFK training can come in many different forms. From just barely hitting that 2-minute timer while training divination, to busting out your premier membership and training mining at near max efficiency by clicking the screen 4 times an hour. Usually players will AFK train for 2 different reasons. The first and most important reason is to make the unreasonably long grinds in this game even somewhat practical to complete. Yeah, I'm looking at you 120 mining grind, you're a f***ing joke. The second is because the active skilling methods are so incredibly boring and repetitive, you wouldn't even consider using these methods unless the XP rates were boosted to massive numbers. Player-owned house construction, for example. No one's touching that with a 10-foot pole while Fort for Rentry exists. The 2 reasons why people choose to AFK are really important. We're going to be coming back to those in a little bit, but we got to talk about what botting is first. Basically, any usage of third-party software or hardware to progress your account without player input can be regarded as botting. That could include anything from running a super complicated code that allows you to farm Zamorak at 1000% without touching the screen, to high-alking salvage using whatever the f this thing is. The player might choose to use bots for a lot of different reasons, and these will vary in terms of how much damage they can do to the game. One player might want to do endgame PVM, but not want to spend hundreds of hours grinding the skills they'd need to do that, so instead they use a bot that'll do it for them. Or another player might purchase several hacked accounts and run complex software allowing them to do activities that make hundreds of millions of GP per hour without any input, so they can sell that GP for real life money. It's safe to say that our second example there is way worse for the game's health than the first example. So with that in mind, let's dig a bit deeper into how botting actually negatively affects the health of the game. Number 1, it requires third-party software and tools that can compromise your account's security, potentially leading you to get hacked and lose all your shit. Number 2, it devalues the achievements of players, as basically anything in the game can be done with 0 skill or effort with the right bot. Number 3, it damages the game's economy by flooding the market with items that are farmed in huge quantities due to the lack of effort required to obtain them. In most cases, this will decrease the value of the item being botted, as supply massively exceeds the demand, effectively ruining this as a money-making method for the legitimate players. And number 4, it decreases social interaction within the game. Obviously, if a player's at the shops while they let their macro cut trees for them, they won't be typing in the chat and interacting with other players. This makes the game feel even more empty. This is where things start to get controversial, so I hope you're strapped in and ready to flame the f out of me on this one. It's very clear to see that both AFK training and botting are both used to progress accounts without player input. And that's a pretty dangerous characteristic to have in common here. I just listed some ways that botting damages the health of the game. Let's see how many of those also apply to AFK training skills, and also look into why that is the case. Let's look at the first one, which is devaluing player achievements. For a very long time, mining was considered one of the hardest skills to get to level 99. Not only were the XP rates terrible, but it was also one of the most click-intensive skills in the entire game. Getting that skill to 99 was a huge accomplishment for a very long time. And then the mining rework happened. Just like that, mining goes from being one of the hardest skills to get to level 99 to becoming the most AFK skill in RuneScape history. I think it's fair to say that a lot of the people that put the time and the effort in to train mining in the difficult circumstances prior to that rework might be a little bit annoyed that their massive grind has now been relegated to a participation trophy, and has been completely devalued as a result of it being incredibly easy to get 99 mining after that. The exact same way that this accomplishment would get devalued if people were allowed to bot 99 mining. Getting 99 mining by clicking your screen once every 15 minutes is basically as easy as if someone decided to bot mining pre-rework. Both require literally 0 skill and 0 effort to do. You just need to be there. It's a participation award. This is a big part of the reason why having a level 120 in a skill has become the new 99. Getting 99 is incredibly easy and doesn't really take very much time. Realistically, the only reason that having 120 skills is impressive is just because it takes so damn long. Unfortunately, that means 120 is going to be ruined by power creep too eventually. It's a never-ending cycle where we all end up losing given enough time. Here we go with number 2, which is AFK skilling does serious damage to the game's economy. Many items have had their value absolutely destroyed by the introduction of AFK methods for obtaining them. This is harmful for the game because actively farming these items becomes completely worthless. This means that low-level players can no longer profit from doing a lot of activities in the game, exclusively because high-level players have found a way to AFK and obtain these items in massive quantities with no effort. Which is a problem because low-level players relied on these methods to actually make money and fuel their progress. Instead, we've got high-level players pulling the ladder up behind them effectively, leaving new players less options for making GP. And yet, players struggle to comprehend why the game struggles to retain new players. If you still don't believe me, here's an example from the past. Until Prifdinus was released, basically the only way to obtain super compost was by making it yourself. People used to always bring watermelons on their farm runs so they can make this and then sell it for a profit later on. With the release of Prifdinus and Alpha Worker Thieving, a very AFK thieving method, super compost was absolutely flooded into the market, dropping their value by over 70% in 2 days. I guess the days of bringing watermelons on farm runs were well and truly dead at that point. A large quantity of AFKing players gathering the same resource crashes the value of items the exact same way a large bot farm would. Both require little to no input from an actual player, and massively increase the supply of an item into the game. Given that botting is a bannable offense and AFKing is totally fine, AFK gathering is introducing astronomically more resources into the game, purely because there's magnitudes more people AFK gathering than people botting. And lastly, at number 3, less social interaction. It doesn't get more simple than this. Someone who's AFKing watching their favorite Netflix show is not going to be typing in chat and interacting with other players. The exact same way a person using macros who isn't even at their computer also wouldn't be typing in their chat. The outcome is exactly the same, if not worse, when people are AFK skilling. Once again, botting's a bannable offense and there's way less people doing that than AFKing. While based on the data that Protox has gathered here, over 90% of the player base prefers AFK skilling over active skilling methods. This would mean that over 90% of the player base is just flat out not interested in having conversations or interacting with other players, and therefore dragging social interaction down to lows that have never been seen in the game's history. And you can see this live by walking through some active skilling hotspots. Social interaction in most of these places is absolutely dead, the same way it would be if people were botting in these locations. So now we know that AFK training is harming the game's health. Let's take a couple steps back and remember the reasons why people are AFK training to begin with. These issues make AFK training basically compulsory given the current state of skilling in RS3, which of course means, yeah, I'm also guilty of doing this too, even if it does come at the expense of the health of the game. Yeah, there's absolutely no way I'm actively killing Krill Suitseroth 2400 times. I got better shit to do, like complaining on YouTube, apparently. No, wait, I'll take that back. It's not complaining, it's spreading awareness or something like that. Alright, cool. So now we've got that cleared up, back to the point. If the grinds in this game are so long, and the active skilling methods are so boring, that we have to literally do something else while playing this game, I say playing in such massive quotation marks that they could be confused with hard mode Vorkath's health bar. And that's really saying something. I think as players, we need to take a step back and look at the skilling experience in RS3 from a distance. Players and developers currently want the game to involve playing the game as little as possible, so they can get XP to level up skills that have absolutely no use at all in game. But that doesn't matter because the value of leveling up those skills came from spending a really long time getting there. Give it some thought for a second, because once you strip away all the bells and whistles of leveling up your account, that is what you are left with. It's not my place to judge how a person plays this game, or spends their time doing anything in life. And I think playing the game for the reason I just listed before is perfectly valid. It feels good to hit your personal goals and level up your skills. But don't you think there could be so much more to the game's skilling experience than what I just described? I'm not saying that we should remove AFK training from the game altogether, because that wouldn't be fair for the people that prefer Runescape for its chill aspect. But what if we reworked all of the skills in the game to have their active skill training loops to be rewarding, fun, and have actual skill progression behind the leveling of the skill? Think of it this way. Let's take mining for example, because apparently I haven't bashed on that skill enough already. Imagine if mining was designed in a way where if you saw someone with that particular skill cape, it actually told you something about that player's in-game experiences and what they're capable of, as opposed to where we are now where you just look at anyone's skill cape and say, huh, that must have taken a really long time. Think of it this way. Big Game Hunter is a really interesting and fun way to train Hunter. It has skill expression, good loot, upgrades along the way, and it's surprisingly easy to pick up if you're brand new to the activity. The only problem is that the XP an hour kind of sucks compared to other hunter training methods, and you don't get access to this activity till you're a fairly high level at hunter. If you had this activity from level 1 hunter with a massive variety of different monsters as you go from 1 to level 99, obviously we'd have to crank up the XP rates way past any AFK hunter methods to make it actually viable, but people might actually do it and be motivated to get better at hunter, instead of jerking each other off at the GE about how many hours they wasted pretending like they're fucking playing the game when they're just standing around clicking the screen once every 15 minutes. It's a fucking joke. Okay, so I might have gotten a little bit carried away there, but let me leave you with this thought. What is the point of having such a diverse range of skills in Runescape if none of them mean anything or are used for anything? They're just another box to check off on your journeys to quitting this game when you realize there's so little substance in any of the content here. I know I've thrown around what I'd consider to be a lot of unpopular opinions in this video, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about this in the comments. As always, thanks for watching, and if you're enjoying the content, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.